Module 3, Chapter 3, Perception, Attribution, and Diversity. Perception, the process of interpreting the messages of our senses to provide order and meaning to the environment. Perceptual defense is the tendency for the perceptual system to defend the perceiver against unpleasant emotions. The three components of perception are the perceiver, the context or situation, and the target. We can see here perceiver, experience, motivational state or emotional state. The situation, which is in between target and the ambiguity, factors that influence perception. Social identity theory, who am I? Perceptions people form of themselves and others based on social identity, relational, example farmer, Canadian, and comparative, example professor and student, social affiliations or categories. Second, personal identity, unique personal characteristics, example interests and abilities. The Brunner's model of the perceptual process. A perceiver that encounters an unfamiliar target is open to cues that help define and categorize. Once familiar cues are encountered, the perceiver looks for cues to support and confirm categorization, and target intends to ignore cues that violate initial perception. Brunner's model of perceptual process and an example. The model is: first, unfamiliar target encountered. Second, openness to target cues. Third, familiar cues encountered. Fourth, target categorized. Fifth, cue selectivity. And last, sixth, categorization strengthened. An example is that we encounter a new coworker, the observation. We observe and search for information. Familiar cues encountered, that is, coworker is Stanford graduate with good grades. Fourth is the coworker is a good man with great potential. The cue selectivity is the coworker's poor performance ignored or distorted. And last, the coworker is still good man and with great potential. Categorization strengthened. Characteristics of the perceptual process. Characteristics of the perceptual process. Selectivity does not consider all cues. Consistency, perceiving the target in the same way over time across situations. And now, constancy is perceiving the target in the same way over time across situations. Constancy. And consistency is selecting, ignoring, and distorting cues so that they fit together to form an homogeneous image of the target. Primacy effect is the tendency for a perceiver to rely on early cues or first impressions. First impressions often have lasting effects. Recency effect is the tendency for a perceiver to rely on recent cues or last impressions. Reliance on central traits. Personal characteristics of a target person that are of particular interest to a perceiver. Example, physical appearance, intellectual capacity. Implicit personality theories says personal theories that people have about which personality characteristics go together, e.g., expecting hard workers to be honest. Projection, the tendency for perceivers to attribute their own thoughts and feelings to others. Stereotyping, the tendency to generalize about people in a certain social category and ignore variations among them. Example, race, gender, age. Most stereotypes are inaccurate but are reinforced by selective perception and selective application of language. They help us process information about others quickly and efficiently. Attribution is the process by which we assign causes and motives to explain people's behavior. Dispositional attribution explains behavior based on the act of an actor's personality or intellect. Situational attribution explains behavior based on an actor's external situation or environment. Other attribution cues people use are consistency. Consistency cues are how consistently a person engages in some behavior over time. Consensus cues how a person's behavior compares with that of others. Distinctiveness cues the extent to which a person engages in some behavior across a variety of situations. Fundamental attribution error is the tendency to overemphasize dispositional explanations for behavior and at the expense of situational explanations. Actor-observer effect is the propensity for actors and observers to view the causes of the actor's behavior differently. Self-serving bias is the tendency to take credit for successful outcomes and to deny responsibility for failures. Work diversity, differences among recruits and employees in characteristics such as gender, race, age, religion, cultural background, physical ability, or sexual orientation. Why is this an issue in organizations today? The changing workplace, the labor pool, is becoming more diverse. Organizations need to reflect customer diversity. Globalization, mergers, strategically alliances require interaction with diverse national and corporate cultures. Valuing diversity versus tolerating it. Diversity and its proper management can yield strategic and competitive advantages, improved problem solving and creativity, improved recruiting and marketing, improved competitiveness in global markets, improved overall organizational performance. Competitive advantages to valuing and managing a diverse workforce. We have these six arguments that are cost argument. As organizations become more diverse, the cost of a poor job in integrating workers will increase. Those who handle this well will thus create most cost advantages over those who don't. Okay, I will begin again with this graph. 1. Cost argument. 2. Resource acquisition argument. 3. Marketing argument. 4. Creativity argument. 5. Problem solving argument. And 6. System flexibility. All of these have different consequences for the organization. Competitive advantages to valuing and managing a diverse workforce. Cost, resource acquisition, marketing, creativity, problem solving, system flexibility. Stereotype threat. Members of a social group feel they might be judged or treated according to a stereotype and that their behavior and or performance will confirm the stereotype. Organizational barriers to valuing diversity. Racial, ethnic, and religious stereotyping tends to be pervasive, persistent, and it is frequently negative and self-contradictory. It often affects career tracking and gender stereotyping. Successful managers are perceived as possessing predominantly masculine traits and characteristics. The third aspect of organizational barriers is age stereotyping, generational stereotyping, and the perception that older workers have less capacity for less potential for development, less capacity for performance, less potential for development. Managing workforce diversity. Select enough minorities to get them past token status. Encourage diversity in teams. Ensure decision makers have accurate information about individual employees and their performance. Train people to be aware of stereotypes and value diversity. Organizations must integrate diversity into all of their policies and practices and develop an inclusive culture. Success factors for diversity programs. Build senior management commitment and accountability. Conduct a thorough needs assessment. Develop a well-defined strategy tied to business results. Emphasize team building and group process training. Establish metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of diversity initiatives.